Hey everyone, how are y'all doing? Welcome back to my channel. So I thought it'd be fun today to talk about all of the books that I've been reading recently. I didn't do wrap-ups for December or January just because I wasn't really making videos that consistently, and so I just never made them, and so I figured I would just combine them into this one recent reads video, and then hopefully I'll be back to filming regular wrap-ups for February. But I'm very excited to talk about all the books that I've been reading. Most of them, I will admit, are rereads. A lot of them are by Marissa Meyer, but regardless, I'm very excited to talk about all of these books, so let's just get started. So the first book I have to talk to you guys about is Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. This is his new memoir, and I actually listened to this as an audiobook, which was nice because he narrated it himself. But I'm gonna be completely honest, as much as I love Matthew Perry and as much as I love the show Friends, this was not my favorite memoir, and it has nothing to do with like his actual story and everything he's been through, because I did enjoy being like a relative term. I did enjoy hearing about all of his struggles that he's been through in his life and learning more about him as a person, because he did go through so much with his drug addiction and everything, and it was kind of nice to get an insight into that, especially since a lot of it was happening during Friends. So it was nice to hear about his journey. But my issue in particular with this book is I just don't know if I love the way that he actually wrote this book and crafted it. To me, it felt like it was a little bit all over the place. That could have been due to me listening to the audiobook. It might have read a bit smoother if I had read it physically or was reading along with the audiobook, because then I could actually like see what was going on. But I did find that he did jump all over the place. He would be talking about one thing and then he would have like an interlude where he was talking about something completely different. So in my head, it was hard to keep track of the timeline of everything and when things were happening. So like I said, that could have just been because I was listening to the audiobook on 2x speed and was not reading it physically. So I don't know, but for me personally, I just kind of wish this book had a bit more of a linear style to it. That's kind of more of what I would prefer. And also, I did not love his humor throughout this book. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So just a couple of like gripes in that regard, but I am glad that I read this and got to know more about Matthew Perry. It was an enlightening read in terms of his journey and everything that he's been through. So overall, like, I did enjoy it well enough, and if I ever do decide to reread this in the future, I think I will be reading it physically, because I think I could potentially get more out of it physically than through the audiobook. But I did read this one, it was alright. Moving on. Okay, so now we have the first of many Marissa Meyer books in this video. This one, however, is the only new to me book, so the rest are rereads. But we have Cursed by Marissa Meyer. This is the second and final book in the Gilded duology. I enjoyed Gilded, but it was not my favorite of Marissa Meyer's books. But I was still really looking forward to this book, because while the plot to me in Gilded wasn't as interesting as other plots that she has in her books, the ending of it, like the last third maybe, really set up for an exciting sequel. So I was really intrigued to know what this book was kind of going to be about following that book and kind of the adventure that we would be going on. And I do have to say that I did enjoy this book a lot more than Gilded, and I ended up really enjoying it overall. While this is still not one of my favorite series by Marissa Meyer, I'd actually argue it's my least favorite of her series. I still had a really great time reading it, especially this sequel. I was invested the entire way through. Like I said, the plot was more interesting than the first book. It felt less repetitive. It felt like the stakes were even higher than they were in the first book. And like I said, there was just a lot more going on. The end of this book was probably my favorite because it did have me crying. I did cry a little bit in Gilded, which was like unexpected because I didn't think I felt like that attached to anything. But this book, I also was not really expecting to cry, but I did. I had a very strong reaction to the ending of this book. It was just very overwhelming. There was just a lot of things going on, but this was a satisfying sequel and conclusion to this duology, and like I said, I did really end up enjoying it. It's definitely my favorite of the two, if that was not obvious, and it was just like such a wild ride in this book. I mean, to be honest, since I did read this back in December, I feel like I don't remember a whole lot from it, because if you watch my channel at all, you know that I have like an awful memory when it comes to books. But I did enjoy this one. I'm really glad that I read it, and I do recommend this duology. It just personally was not my favorite because I do love her other series just so much, but this one was still really good. I also just like adore this cover. It is stunning. Okay, so since we're talking about books I read in December, I did read a few Christmas books. So since it's no longer December and we are now in February, I am going to just quickly run through these ones since I'm sure we don't really want to be hearing about Christmas books right now. But I did read 4 Christmas books, 3 of which were rereads, so I'll quickly just run over those ones, give quick thoughts about it, and then move on. So we do have A Convenient Christmas by Jodie Holford. This was my second time reading this book, and it's just like a really cute Hallmark-esque kind of story, so this one was a lot of fun to revisit. And then we also have In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I reread this for the Best Season Books book club that I co-host with my friend Alyssa. This was our December pick, and this is definitely like one of my favorite Christmas books, if not my favorite Christmas book. It just has like the perfect Christmas vibes in it, and it's like a Groundhog Day kind of situation, and it's just a lot of fun. And then we have The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. I've reread this book many times and I'm obsessed with it. It's a really fun Christmas Carol-esque retelling, and if you've not yet read this one, I definitely recommend picking it up this holiday season. It already feels weird talking about because we just had a holiday season, but you know, when Christmas time comes around, I recommend any of these books. But the only new Christmas book that I read was A Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. I believe this book came out in September and I had an ARC for it, but I was specifically waiting to read it until around Christmas time. I was gonna do a vlog for this book along with another book, like doing a little Christmas festive reading vlog, but obviously I wasn't really uploading in December because I had COVID, so I decided to just not do that reading vlog. But I really enjoyed this book. It was steamy, it was cute, it was fun, and I loved the holiday vibes in it. Basically, our female main character is a plus-size adult film star, and she kind of last minute gets cast in this like Hallmark Christmas romance movie because the actor who was supposed to do it had to drop out last minute, so she kind of accidentally gets cast in this movie, and it just so happens to be alongside her old like childhood celebrity crush who is kind of doing this movie to fix his bad boy reputation. I believe he was in a boy band if I remember correctly, so lots of good vibes. This one, like I said, was super fun, super steamy, and it was a really good time. It's actually going to be a companion series, and I believe the next one comes out this year, which I'm really excited about. But this one was a lot of fun and I do really recommend it, again, to read during the holiday season. Okay, so now we can move on to all of my Marissa Meyer rereads that I did. So I read 2 of these in December and the rest of them in January, but I'm just gonna talk about them all at once. So one of the series that I wanted to reread in 2022, I believe I made a video where I was talking about the books I wanted to reread. So one of them was the Lunar Chronicles. So I read all 4 of these books. I read Cinder and Scarlet, the first 2, in December, and then I read Cress and Winter in January, and I had such a fun time rereading this series. I also annotated them, so look at all of those tabs. Absolutely stunning. But yeah, I had literally the most fun rereading this series. It's been quite a few years since I've reread them. I think the last time I reread these books was like the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, somewhere around there, and I believe I listened to the audiobooks for them. So it's been even longer since I've read them physically, and I had such a blast reconnecting with these characters. I've been wanting to reread it for years, but because of COVID and everything, I didn't really feel like I was in a place to reread them because they do so heavily deal with a plague that's kind of tormenting this world. So I didn't feel ready to read it until now, but I'm so glad that I did because I had, like I said, just the absolute best time rereading them. So I thought I would give like a little bit of a ranking for this series. So my absolute favorite is Winter, which is the 4th and final book, and this one's my favorite because one, it's the longest, so that's just fun, but we also get to see all of the characters in this world, and it's just so satisfying to see them all come together, see how they all interact. I almost just dropped all these books. And then it's Cress. Cress is my next favorite, and I feel like these ones are like really close in the ranking just because we get so many good moments in Cress. Cress and Thorn are my favorite couple in this series. In this book, we kind of like get introduced to them as like a possible couple, which I really enjoy. And then it's Cinder, and then my least favorite is Scarlet, just because Scarlet and Wolf are my least favorite couple, not meaning that I don't love them, it's just I love the other one so much more. So that is my ranking of this series. I had literally such a blast rereading them and annotating them. Like, it was so much fun. I don't even know if you can see any of my highlights in there really, but I had the absolute best time rereading this series, and if you guys have not read it yet, I highly recommend it. It's fairy tale retelling set in a futuristic world. It's so much fun. And then to piggyback off that, I did more rereading, because obviously if I'm rereading the Lunar Chronicles series, I have to take the opportunity to reread the graphic novels as well. So there is also like a prequel and a short story collection, but I didn't really feel like rereading those this time around. But I never don't want to reread the graphic novels. I'm obsessed with these. I think they're like some of my favorite graphic novels ever. So we have Wires and Nerve Volume 1. So this is written by Marissa Meyer, but the art in this one is by Doug Holgate. And then we have Wires and Nerve Volume 2 Gone Rogue, also written by Marissa Meyer, but the art in this one is by Stephen Gilpin. I am just absolutely obsessed with these. So they follow Aiko, who is Cinder's android from the main series, and it takes place after the events of Winter, where they're trying to like repair the world and things are happening, and it's so much fun. I think Volume 2 is my favorite, again because it's bigger, so like why not? It's more content. But I love these literally so much. So if you've read the Lunar Chronicles series but have not read these, then I highly recommend it. The art styles are so much fun, and it's so good. Like, I think this series works in graphic novel form so well, and I would love to see the main series adapted into graphic novels, preferably with the same artists. Either one would work, because it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and I would love to see some of the scenes from the original series in graphic novel form, like to actually see it with my eyeballs. It would be so good. Okay, the next book that I read, I don't want to talk about too much because I'm hopefully going to have a reading vlog coming out about it soon. But it is A Good Girl's Guide to a Murder by Holly Jackson. I listened to this as an audiobook, and I really liked the audiobook. I will say that the audiobook production was extremely well done. It was very similar to Sadie by Courtney Summers, if you've listened to that audiobook. It's a very similar full cast kind of style. But this book I'm reading for the booktube reading taste video that I've been working on since literally 2021. I don't know why it's taken me so long to work on this one video and to get these books read, but I only have 2 more to read, so I just need to buckle up and do it. I think I'm gonna try to read them in March, so hang tight for that video. But if you've not seen the other 2 videos I've made in this series, I will link above in the cards the playlist for it. But my goodness, I've been filming this video for so long, so I hope that I can get it out to you guys soon. But I did read that, don't want to spoil my thoughts about it. So let's just move on to the last book that I have to talk about. And out of all the new books that I've read that I've talked about today, this one is my favorite, and it is Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry by Joya Goffney. So this was the Besties in Books book club pick for January. By the way, if you are not following our book club, I have our Twitter linked down below. Our book for February is Talk Flirty to Me by Livy Hart. So you guys should definitely join in and read the book if you have not yet already. For the live show, I believe it's happening March 3rd. We haven't officially announced it, I don't think, but March 3rd, and the author Livy Hart might be making a surprise appearance at the end, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So read Talk Flirty to Me if you have not yet already, so you can join in on our live show discussion. It's going to be a lot of fun. This was our January book. I absolutely adored it. I knew that I was going to adore it, or really hoped I was going to enjoy it, because I've heard nothing but good things about it. My friend Haley from Pages of Haley absolutely adores this book, so I just had really high hopes going into it. I figured I was going to love it, and I was not wrong. Okay, this book was so good. It was so good. But everything about this book was so good. Like, I literally don't think I have any complaints about it. This book basically follows our main character, Quinn, and she organizes her life into lists. She has a list for everything, like a list of boys she wants to kiss, a list of things she wants to do before she graduates. These lists that she keeps in this journal are her entire life. And one day her journal goes missing, and then she starts getting blackmailed by whoever has her journal to do these things on her list of things before she graduates. Otherwise, her other lists are going to be leaked. So she ends up enlisting the help of Carter, who I adore, because he's the one who lost her journal, to help her complete the things on the list so that she can get her journal back and stop the blackmail. I also just loved these characters, like all of them individually. Quinn and Carter are amazing, but also the side characters were a lot of fun as well. And I just highly enjoyed the dynamic between all 4 of like the mainish kind of characters we get in this book. But then of course this is a YA contemporary romance, so how can I talk about it without talking about the romance? I'm obsessed with Quinn and Carter. The vibes of their relationship is literally so good. It like starts off with like a bit of tension. They don't necessarily get off on the right foot, but then through him helping her with the list, it's so good. The like things that we find out about them, the way that they interact with each other, the dialogue in this book was so spot on. It felt so realistic to me, and like everything that came out of Carter's mouth I was obsessed with. Like everything that came out of his mouth I was like, yes, I'm in love with you, this is amazing. So he's like one of my new favorite like love interests in a YA book. He was just so charming, so good. I loved them together. I feel like they really suited each other. I feel like he really took the time to like understand her but also push her. Like he wasn't afraid to like tell her how it was, to like help her grow and learn, and I'm obsessed with that. The character growth in this book was amazing from all of the characters. Everything in this book was perfection. The conversations surrounding race in this book were also really great, and I know that people do really relate to that, and I'm so happy that people can see themselves in this book, see themselves in Quinn or Carter. It's so amazing. I tabbed this book quite a bit because I just couldn't help it. Like I wasn't planning on it, but then I read one quote and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be tabbing this book. So I highly recommend this book. I would not be surprised at all if this ended up on my favorite books of the year list at the end of the year, because I love it that much, and I can see myself rereading this book a million times over and just never getting tired of it. If you have not yet read Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, I definitely recommend it. It was literally so good. Like I love it possibly even more than I thought I was going to, which is saying something because I thought I was going to adore it. So like I said, if you have not picked this one up yet, I do highly recommend it. It was amazing. So those are all the books that I've read recently. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, or let me know what books you've read recently because I'd really love to know. Subscribe if you have not yet already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!